Hey Studs, welcome back to Studson Studio. I've been playing Horizon Forbidden West recently, which is a game with a plot and characters that drive that plot, but it's also a game with, wow, cool robot. I can't stop ogling all of these mech designs, but can we talk about the robot elephant in the room? When I first saw it, I only had one thought.
It's an elephant.
And my second thought was, oops, I didn't pre-order the collector's edition figure. So let's kitbash a plastic pachyderm from various junk and also not junk. Starting from the bottom with these big elephant waffle stompers. These thick feet need a sturdy base, so I'm using these plastic discs from the tops of soda cans, and then these cans from a pair of old broken headphones. On top of each disc, I'm placing a dome from a ping pong ball. It's a little tricky to perfectly divide these, but if you hold them to the light, you can see the perennial raphy and mark it with a pen to help you bisect them. And now that we have 4 domes, I'm sanding the pieces before gluing them together. This gives the plastic some tooth, which will help the superglue bind the domes to the discs. Next, we need some toes. I have a bunch of gunpla parts in my bits box, and perhaps ironically, many of these toes are actually fingers because of the excess of hands that Gundam kits come with. And those of you with taste might recognize this insignia. I found this incomplete set of vintage robotics toys at Goodwill recently. They have this really nice hexagonal connector that will make excellent joint pieces after jamming them into these ping pong holes. Just gotta get that piece out of here. It's better in there actually. As I have no personal nostalgia attached to this toy, I have no qualms with destroying them. Now these feet need some shoes. Using these horseshoe charms, along with an abundance of Gundam polycaps I've been saving, we can make a little piston for each toe. And if you're following along with my debt to the horse centipede, only 3 horseshoes remain. This is important. I actually built this model before the game came out, which made finding reference images tricky, so sometimes I just made it up and glued on whatever I had in my junk arsenal. Like broth caps. These are worth keeping, but there's one other piece of important cap technology to discuss. The tamper-evident sealing ring is perfect for implying these stationary ankles have multiple axes of movement. And that's it for the feet. More spicy elephant feet pics can be found on OnlyFans. Okay, now show me your belly. Ooh, I have the perfect piece for this. It's the shell from an old RC car, and it actually inspired this whole build. And if you're a gunpla fan, this is the point in the video where I start scavenging perfectly healthy kits for pieces to use. This skirt armor will make a nice elephant chest, but that Xeon logo has got to go. Then to fill in this chest cavity that's left behind, I have this leftover piece from a previous video which happens to fit right here. But to bulk it out, here's a dense piece of plastic from a broken sous vide immersion cooker. Just gotta cut it in half real quick. Uh-oh, I'm weak. Don't look at me. It's always so soothing to the brain when these curves line up like this. But it's less soothing how this white piece is joining this red gunpla piece, so let's cover it up with another piece. Here's a threaded rubber, I don't actually know what, I just found it on the ground covered in dirt. And what's in here? Ah, perfect, 2 discs to overlap this unsightly overlap. On the topic of that broken sous vide immersion cooker from earlier, here's more of it. This is just to add some internal torso strength. More gunpla pieces on the elephant chest. And then half of a Star Wars turbine to complete this semicircle, which is essentially the elephant's armpit. A lot of this portion of the torso is just building bulk from various plastic junk I have, like this leftover dollar store robot torso as the start of an elephant pelvis. Speaking of the dollar store, they sell pencil sharpeners. Or are they heat vents for these powerful elephant oblique muscles? And speaking of elephant pelvis, from this set of robotics toys, I'm using these bell nozzle engines to make a pelvic girdle. And with these gray connector pieces as removable leg joints, these rockets have hip sockets. Next, we need to fill out the rest of the elephant back. Using this dollar store helicopter flipped upside down, we can slot it over the stomach after trimming it to fit. Whoops! Okay, time to guard the eyes from flying debris. After many shallow slices in a direction that wouldn't result in me accidentally stabbing myself, it now fits. The tail rotor is where I'm planning on mounting the head, but now the helicopter body is much wider and needs some structure. So I'm adding some spinal column support with dog poop bag tubes. Take out food containers. Sometimes they're really high tech and made with carbon fiber from the year 3000. After hot gluing some of this texture to a few cardboard poop tubes, we now have a very futuristic looking elephant ribcage. Then after filling out a few more gaps on the belly, we're ready to stack the back on this pachyderm. Here's a Gundam pelvis. I sacrificed pieces of this kit on the Howl's Moving Castle build, and the ritual is nearly complete with this one. My partner gave me her extra Fitbit wrist strap recently, so let's check that booty pulse and strap that here. Then some more pieces from the headphones that became the feet to frame the strap. And the last torso task is to cover up the tube spine. Most important is to build some strong shoulders that can support the weight of the model, so I'm using some 2-part epoxy to lather up and clamp the parts where the front legs will mount to. Then between these elephant scapula, I'm adding a Gundam shield divided in two because it looks cool. And for the rest of the back, I found this build your own robot set at Daiso that is a treasure trove of robot greeblies. I'm not too worried about how the back looks because it's ultimately going to be covered under a rickety clubhouse, so for now, the Tremortusk torso is nearly complete. Oh yeah, this is called the Tremortusk, by the way. 7 minutes into the video and I figured I'd tell you what I'm making. The Tremortusk and all the other big robo-beasts are my favorite thing about these games. The designs feel organic, yet mechanically they make sense. If you're into seeing other creators build machines from these games, then I highly recommend you check out Melissa Dawn Makes and KP Creations. Both of them are very inspirational and tackle these design challenges across different crafting mediums. I love how Guerrilla Games' design language blends animal anatomy into machined parts. Now let's continue with another piece of classic elephant anatomy, ribcage guns, aka the Tremortusk's salvo cannons. A friend salvaged these used label cartridges from the trash and they have a lot of nice surface detail. There's some nice internal bits here too, as long as you can unspool the tangle of label spaghetti. We'll save these bits for later. Two cartridges together make the cannon housing, then I sealed up the openings with some scrap plastic. More dollar store toys. Save these elephant tusk looking things for later, and the rest of the accessories are almost good to go, but the cannons need their barrels drilled out for my full immersion that these are actually functional weapons. After gingerly setting the pieces in place and then gluing them off screen, welcome to the gun show. Next, they need some side armor. The space shuttle program is officially retired, so let's repurpose these wings. Honestly, these wings kinda made it look worse, but this armor placement will make sense once we assemble everything later. Next, let's make the Tremortusk's booty tubes. The main booty bulk is 2 robo-torsos from Daiso glued back to back. But for the ammo drums, I have these glitter tubes which I'm going to repurpose. If your tubes are filled with glitter though, a fun mini project you can do is dump it straight into the trash because that's where this blight belongs. Okay, we got tubes and now we need these Mars rover wheels and we can construct an ammo drum. And now we come to the most difficult and time-consuming part of the build, constructing those thick tree trunk limbs. Using a couple dollar store staplers, I removed the parts that make it a stapler so that I'm left with the start of a leg joint and shoulder. Then with an old lighter cartridge, I glued it in under the shoulder joint, and now this leg bone is a little humorous. And for the knee joint, a gunpla leg piece. Oh wow, the tall neck exhibits such beauty, power, and grace, but I need this spaceship head to start building up some armor pieces for the leg. This flying saucer toy will cover up the majority of the shoulder, but it's taking a lot of self-restraint to not start tearing into this gunpla pile for the rest of the armor. And I almost did, until I found this lonely 50-cent model kit sprue at Goodwill, a beautiful find.
A gift from All Mother herself.
But we can still pretend it's gunpla. This has been your subliminal messaging to seek more ASMR clack and gunpla content at Millennial Model Mayhem. Okay, now mind this gap. I want to maintain this thin line so the armor plates read as separate pieces when they're glued together. But for the large gap, I guess I'll have to destroy my favorite dollar store compass ring and use part of this plastic to continue that beautiful thin gap to the top of the shoulder. The rest of the leg is more of that delicious model kit sprue I found at Goodwill. I wish I had more of it. Except that's a rocket booster leg from a gunpla kit. A button, an airplane wheel, a dollar store gun, and a dollar store quadcopter, but just a single rotor motor. A lot of the time spent on this project was picking up random pieces of junk and holding them up to each other to see if they fit. Mostly they didn't, but when they did, it was a great garbage day. Hey look, it moves. Whenever you buy dollar store pencil sharpeners, they actually come with these pieces of shin armor. This is a very big boy, so we need 2 pencil sharpener covers to fill out the real estate on each shin. And while you weren't looking, I strengthened this joint with a piece of a metal clothes hanger and added a ball joint to connect to the ankle. That'll do it for the main structure of the front leg. I really wanted to keep these joints posable, but sadly they're weak and wobbly, so I'll have to abandon that plan and lock the joints in place with glue. This boy's just got too much heft and I don't want him slipping all over the place. For the back legs, I'm starting with more of these dollar store toys, specifically this very scary looking hoverboard. On the backside, I epoxied another robotics connector that will join with the hip mount. Then I started building up more armor plates from pieces of generic sci-fi toys. But I'll need a hand. Actually a forearm. The goal is to first get the general shape of a thick elephant thigh, then we can fill out the gaps with generic mass. Like this. The internal waffle press from the inside of a deodorant stick. You'll never see it, but it was just nice and round and it fit here perfectly, so why not? Those are some nice arms you got. These arms are now legs. They just need some armor plates to bulk it out a bit. Cool, these pieces kind of balance each other. I think we're ready to slip this robot sock on now. And for the ankle, I embedded another gunpla joint, but it's ultra scrawny looking, so I had to bulk out the bones with a bit more beef to make it more formidable. With that extra thickness, these legs are now ready to stand on their own. And now don't mind me while I zoom into this elephant grundle to showcase the fibers that weave through the machines. For all of these tubular details, I'm using garden wire since it's extremely flexible and forgiving. Some of these pieces already have holes, so why not shove some cables in there? But for the most part, I'm taking large swaths of wire and laying them side by side to create a muscle fiber pattern, despite my lack of elephant anatomy knowledge. And for less visible sections like the inner thigh, I'm using this mesh tubing from the dollar store, you know, for Halloween, which is appropriate because it's scary how haphazardly I'm stuffing this space. I used the same garden wire to add some details to the Tremortusk torso too, and this plastic football is now complete.
This is the Tremortusk.
If you ever run out of kitbashing materials, don't be afraid to seek out community secondhand stores. Sometimes the bottom of the drawers have some overlooked gems, like this Mega Bloks toy. This is a drop pod from Halo. or apparently a single occupant exo-atmospheric insertion vehicle, or SOAV. But today, it's an elephant head. Speaking of heads, I'll need more of this tallneck head as armor plating. This piece is already perfectly shaped for the elephant forehead. And for the Tremortusk's trunk, this flexible fidget toy will make for a nice posable snout. These will be the nose bones, but we'll need some armor plating for full protection. For that, we'll need some gunpla pieces from the bits box. This piece in particular feels like it was meant to go right here, just wait. That's how you know. Most of these pieces are from a friend who donated their kits to my gunpla graveyard, and they're going on to live their second life as an elephant face. We can't forget the trunk teeth to make it a bit more menacing. And the eyes, which are the most accurate Kitbash piece I found for the whole build. These are a set of hand cannons from a gunpla kit, which are perfect for these quintuple eyeballs. After some surgery to remove these plastic cataracts, I'm using this string of battery-powered red LEDs for some eyeball lighting effects. I went with red because I prefer that menacing on the hunt appearance. How's it looking?
Looks good.
To accompany the eyes, it needs some ears made from a few miscellaneous pieces, plus some plasticard, which is pretty easy to snap off after a light cut. I sanded the edges smooth until we're left with a streamlined ear design for the 31st century, and the other two pieces will become the mount so the ear can rotate and find that optimal 10G signal. Alright, eyes, ears, mouth, nose, so the next is the fifth part of the face, the plasma cannons. The base piece I'm using is this extra dense plastic turret from the dollar store. Uh-oh. Something went wrong. Oops.
What a waste.
Nippers can't nip with one blade. We'll upgrade to the heavy-duty pair for now, whilst I contemplate what I've done. The rest of the plasma cannons are various gunpla weapons, which brings us to the eponymous tusks of the Tremortusk. This seat piece from that yonder set of robotics toys I used earlier will make a fine tusk mount. Using another dollar store quadcopter, I made this mount where the tusks will attach, but this machine is greedy and has 4 tusks, so we need an extension. I wanted the tusks to be posable, so I dug up 4 ball joints from my gunpla bits box and started building up the tusks from various pieces I had, like this broken rechargeable flashlight. Lots of good stuff in here, but this trigger speaks to me as a tusk joint. I added a gunpla polycap so it could interface with a ball joint, then covered up all the hideous fake joints with beads to at least imply articulation. The end of each tusk is a Gundam shoe and this pointy piece from a dollar store toy. I don't know what it actually is, but I can only think of it as a sci-fi grasshopper wing as invented by...
Don't grave me.
So let's amend that. Each tusk is topped off with a Gundam shoe and a sci-fi grasshopper wing. But this tusk is special and gets to have 2 pointy grasshopper wing toes. One of the problems with lazy kit bashing like this is the empty peg holes left behind, but just fill those holes with garden wire and it looks intentional. These tusks are kinda cute, it could be its own guy. And with the posable pachyderm head complete, that means we're ready to paint all these plastic parts. All the pieces primed black look pretty good, but why are the wires so shiny? Oh no. 2 days later and the spray paint never cured. Luckily it was the kind of wet that is very friendly to paper towels, so after a bit of cleanup and a fresh acrylic coat, you could blur your eyes and almost call this mecha mastodon done. Time for some metallic dry brushing. Dry brushing is the technique where you blast most of your expensive paint all over a paper towel that gets thrown away. Then with the crusty remnants on your brush, you lightly caress all the raised surfaces to give a nice varied metal appearance with a lot of depth. Then it was time to break out the masking tape. I'm only masking the dark metal areas I want to retain, while all the uncovered armor will be primed white. I also used good old painter's tape for the larger areas. Looks like everything's all covered up. Let's take this wibbly wobbly set outside and prime it. Here's a fun reverse tip. It was almost freezing the day I primed these, which is 20 degrees Fahrenheit colder than it should be, so don't do this. Or do if you want paint that doesn't dry properly that you can just call free weathering. And now for some always satisfying masking tape peels. And by tape peels, I mean paint peels, because you forgot to sand the ultra smooth dollar store plastic to help it take paint better. Don't worry though, the rest of the paint peels are extra crispy. But the armor isn't just white, it's also dark white and warm white. All the futuristic triangles are painted gray, and if you're wondering why everything, including the currency, is triangles in Horizon games, it's because there's a triangle surplus from when all the corners were cut off sci-fi doors. But the Tremortusk isn't only these exciting unsaturated shades, it's also yellow in a few key spots, which helps the white armor and gunmetal areas pop a bit. I actually really dig this white and yellow color scheme. Yellow and white look cute together. I did some of the additional sloppy triangle details freehand, but I was able to clean up some of the unwanted lumpiness with a toothpick before the paint fully dried. I'm booting up the airbrush for the rest of the yellow sections because painting yellow by hand is generally the worst and takes 100 coats. First I'm laying down a bed of orange on the Tremortusk's blaze-filled belly and the ends of each tusk. Then I'm coming back with yellow to make a subtle gradient that is almost invisible to the naked eye.
Doesn't look like anything to me.
The paint didn't peel off this time, good job. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, but I felt like a blockhead once I saw the bottom.
Good grief.
Alright, time to destroy the paint finish I worked so hard to achieve. I prefer my robots to be a little battle damaged, so I'm attacking the paint with a toothpick. This chipping technique works best when the top coat of paint is still fresh, hopefully within the first few hours of spraying. But the sweet spot is finding the perfect amount of pressure that only removes the first layer of paint and doesn't disturb the black primer underneath. It's not a perfect system because the different plastics I've used have slightly different paint adhesion, but it's good enough and it's free weathering all the same. But in some places it wasn't good enough, so I'm switching to a painted on chipping effect, layering on gunmetal gray, followed by a chrome silver on top. Next, grab a surprisingly tough sponge and rip off a chunk.
How tough are you?
How tough am I?
A sponge is great for chipping because it provides a nice random pattern that would be too tedious for my brain to paint by hand. I'm dabbing it in just a few key spots, then using the chrome paint to fill in the gunmetal areas almost to the edge, but making sure to retain a visible two-tone effect. The last hues to paint are the red and green color scheme of the rebels that have captured this Tremortusk. Rather than painting by hand, I wanted to try carving some stamps out of scrap foam to make the proper insignia. I like this method because it avoids brush strokes that would look way out of scale. Whoa, super cool. The MVP stamp was this very scratchy triangle, because you already know about the unbridled strength of triangles in the world of Horizon. And so I pretty much went to Triangle Town with this guy. I was aiming for an intimidating teeth pattern, but it kind of has more of a Simba's leaf mane vibe. The triangles continue, except on the forehead where I created a skull icon that looks like a discount Punisher logo. With all the pieces painted, it was grime time to tie it all together using oil washes. With my jagged limoncello LaCroix can ready, I mixed up an oil wash using 1 part oil paint to something close to 2-ish parts of mineral spirits. I like to get it to a nice thin au jus consistency and then let gravity do most of the work and let it flow into all the nooks and crannies. I wiped most of the grime away with a paper towel or cotton swab before I remembered that Blackmagic Craft used a foam makeup wedge and oh yeah, that's the good stuff. After a bit of grime squeegee, it's now perfectly dirty and weathered by the Forbiddden West, so let's start assembly. But why are we not done? Because wire. I wound up a bunch of dollar store wire and garden cables to create the corrupted coils that interlace through the machines. I left a lot of awkward gaps in the model, but with wire stuffed in those holes, now the gaps look like very much intentional conduit passages. The red wire was a little intense though, so I painted them gunmetal and copper on the front and back legs respectively. And now we can make a baby Tremortusk. Now it's time for the aftermarket accessories for the Tremortusk, namely this wooden structure that looks like it's made out of sticks, which is great news because I can find sticks for a great price. This is free, 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 also free. $8 bundle of decorative sticks, not free. First we'll need to debark these sticks, which was how I discovered someone is living in here. I built the log foundation directly on the back so it wouldn't crowd those hefty delts. Then I made a second platform that would stack on top of the first piece. We need a nice deck, so let's make some balsa boards. But it's not OSHA approved without some railing. It took about 8 hours to complete this pencil sharpener punishment. What a time. Okay, we got walls, but we also need Wolverine claws for spiky embellishment. I left some gaps between the chunks of wall so that I could fill them in with said Wolverine claws, or stacked up some leftover sticks for a haphazard and dangerous looking porcupine treehouse. I fashioned a few flagpoles and a roof structure, but it needs a canopy. This artificial big leaf can also be an artificial small leaf by adding 1 million cuts to create a palm frond. I used hot glue, but also directly melted the plastic leaves onto the sticks. This wood is currently the color of wood, but it could be better with a smattering of inks through the airbrush, a spritz of carbon black, burnt sienna, and yellow ochre. And just so it matches the Tremortusk, I want to add the same red-green color scheme. The last treehouse touch is the flag flying high. Using an old t-shirt, I cut a few ragged banners and glued them to the flagpole sticks. But this cotton polyester blend is too floppy. To stiffen it up, I'm soaking in a generous amount of super glue, then using some super glue accelerant to instantly lock it in place. Then, to spice up these t-shirt flags, I painted on some designs with acrylic paint and dipped the whole flag in a dark wash to blend them with the rest of the color scheme. Tremortusk complete, but you can't have a Tremortusk without a mini Aloy. Maybe my miniature sculpting skills have spontaneously improved since previous videos.
I doubt it.
Well, let's try anyway. Now I'm known north of the border, so my wormy dealies are more like sluggy logos. Aloy has 2 slugs for legs, 2 slug arms, an egg head, her toothpick spear, and we can't forget her flaming hair of red, and a classic Aloy expression. For her clothing, I'm a fan of her original Nora design. Just a few more finishing touches, and there we go. Last but not least, we need a platform for these two to stand on. Perfect. I recently got a new crafting tool that's really going to change my life. It's a hot wire foam cutter. I burnt myself a few times, but I tried to limit the burning to just the foam to create some interesting ground lumps. To complement these lumps, we'll need other interesting ground lumps, like these pieces of bark I foraged. These will become some miniature boulders. The hot wire tool was very useful in sculpting out a perfect hole made for each rock. I'm aiming for a mountainous field scattered with a vein of boulders all going in the same direction. And to make sure each boulder is tucked in nicely to its bedrock, I sprinkled on a line of glue and filled that glue with various pieces of wood, gravel, sand, and then to help the glue all settle into place, a spritz of isopropyl alcohol. This is one of my favorite goops. It makes a great seam cream. First we spread that goop.
Say the line, Bart!
Then we stipple that goop. But that was just a tiny snack, and I'm still hungry for more goop, so I'm making another meal. I'm fixing up a batch of Boileye Hobby Time's classic plaster, paint, and Mod Podge porridge, plus water as needed to thin out this soup. This texture paste is for all the pink foam areas, followed by a mixture of just paint and Mod Podge for the bark rocks. But why are the rocks so light and creamy? That's where these washes come in. This is a rock painting method I first saw from Luke at Geek Gaming Scenics. I also first saw it on scratch bashing. You hit the rocks with a few splotches of a red wash, a yellow wash, then drown the whole thing in a brown wash. And when it's finally brown enough, you douse the rocks with a black wash to tie all of the colors together. And finally, a light khaki dry brush to bring back all those highlights that were knocked down by the dark washes. And now it's officially a rock, but we need some dirt. Using a bottle of non-fat Mod Podge milk and a spray bottle pump, I'm glazing all the khaki areas with this sticky juice before sprinkling on a layer of dirt from a hole in the ground. It was a hole that I dug outside, and I just go back to it anytime I need fresh dirt. This is also the time to place Aloy in the hole that was made for her. Canonically, it's Gaia and the machines in Horizon that are responsible for terraforming the earth and healing nature, so it makes sense that this static grass machine is planting a fresh lawn around Aloy's feet. While you watch this exciting footage of grass growing, please enjoy this gallery of art created by supporters on Patreon as part of this video's art challenge. The theme was to interpret the phrase "nature is healing" and transform it into any piece of art they saw fit. This was loosely inspired by Gaia in the Horizon games because I really dig the aesthetic of post-apocalyptic and seeing nature reclaim things, but it also might be related to me living in an area where moss grows on everything. This is the first art challenge we've done, and I love the variety of what was submitted. Stay on the lookout for more of these in subsequent videos, or peep that Patreon link to have your art showcased too. Thank you patrons for your support and beautiful art. Gaia loves you. Grass is great, but we need a little more variety, like these clump foliage bushes. A sprinkling of green and yellow flocking as moss on the rocks. A cluster of red flowers for Aloy to hide in. And some ridgewood, so there's always arrows ready for crafting. Let's place this Tremortusk in its designated feet holes, dust up those waffle stompers to show that it's been tromping, and let's roll the beauty shots and the latest Patreon shoutouts. 2, 1, song starts now. Tracy Wrench Cast, Mr. Braden Young, Reggie Big Cast, Little Naya C. Jung, Art Sapphire Cat, Lord Old Manrat's Terry Young, Rebecca Davis, Gina Nichols, Toby Jung, Dave McBlain, Genetias de Soyano. Stupid online name, Fighting Chance Studio. Sarah Yelkinen, H. Kieran Penman, Gugguluffa Pugsley, Smug Lil Fug. Grant Thack Ray, S. Fode, K. Rock Ray, AJ Jagly, Sean Strait. Mallory, Charlie A, Brian Parnacott, Gaia Sokolov, Gladys 1020, Little Lost. Darian, Patton K, Goss Dodger Berserker, Jessica, Lincoln L, Ness, Marcus Dorzer. Magdalene, Friesen, Derek Hines, The Thabinator. Fan Guy Films, Corey Walton, Katie Schweitzer. Dandelion Sherbert, Moldy Merkin, Lumpy Dreams. Mutual Aid Miniatures, Yensel Pencil, One Ginger Beard Please. Clara Irving Mays, The Ahmeds, Christian Castaneda, Dominique Jolie, Animosity, Turbo Armageddon, Textos Nalabi, Nemerdes, Han Gibson, Kiera Berlin. Carly Dingman, Joanna Balducci, Danny Perkins, Kenser Currency, Audrey and Diego Hillary, Tabitha, Ra Himmler, Joy Hausler, Teddy Shire, Ryan Fillmore, CQ, Mitchell West, Archeon Blue, Anna Chen's the best, Harley Talent, Patrick Nicole, David Brown, Thessiel, Danica, Cole Boudreau, Susie Brown, Tucci, Iracha, Shlina, Moctopus, Alenka, Chachita, Stephen, Beat, Brando, Beezings, Persona, The Creator, Matt, Majestic, Hatchet, Odd, Pit Pat. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time.